This bonus episode was brought to you by the Gackoids over on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. And now, on to the episode.
And just wait till you see how fast this kid bags groceries.
We'll see who has the last laugh, Angus.
I told you! It's a screw, all right. This was in your can of tuna fish?
Yes, man, I almost choked to death.
Can anybody hear me? I'm trapped down here with a can of tuna fish.
It's an empty can of tuna.
An empty can of tuna. Here's your pretty dress, Fungus. How many more cans do I have to open?
Kick it.
Here it goes, Gackoids. Welcome to Splat Attack, a 90s podcast overflowing into the slime-filled past. I'm your blazing fast bag boy, Brett.
And I'm your tuna-loving lawyer, Alex. And Brett,
Yes, Alex?
what brings us to Rigby's grocery store today? Did you run out of orange soda? I've got plenty.
Yeah, please share with me. You could say that. I'm just here to visit my good pals, Kenan and Kel, who are going to help us through this fierce episode battle today.
What are we battling with? Wheels of cheese and deli meats?
Nah, that's for another time, another place, another 90s Nick show, actually. And Wacky Deli.
Then which episodes are we facing off on the battlefield today?
Well, we actually got two fan favorites from season 1 of Kenan and Kel, which is the Tainting of the Screw and Baggin Saggin Kel. Both are very food-centric episodes, so only seem fitting to be surrounded by delectable delights today.
This is going to be good.
Suppress your appetite, Alex. I know we're both itching to eat. But before we begin, I'm going to take a look in this bag to see what we got for the bagging contest. Let's see, I've got an apple. I've got some garlic. I've got some, curry powder. That's going to be spicy later. Wait a minute. Who's in here? Oh, it's our guest today. It's Mike.
Mike!
Mike, MYK. Mike O'Connor himself. How you doing?
I am doing pretty all right. I thought I'd never get out of that bag, though.
Yeah. I know Kel's stuck in there, as you can see in my background, but I'm happy you found a way out.
I was sweating in there. Not a lot of room.
No. Well, we're glad to have you here today, Mike. And tell us a little bit about your history watching Kenan and Kel growing up before we dive into the episode.
Yeah. Well, my experience with Kenan and Kel, like most people, started with all that, and just great character actors. It was Saturday Night Live for kids, and to be honest, I really didn't watch too much of Kenan and Kel. I saw maybe the first 2 seasons, and then I think by the time I was maybe a sophomore in high school, I kind of aged out of that. I was trying to be cool. Mm-hmm. I watched Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno. But I've always appreciated them as actors and comedians. Their timing has been great. The episodes are always just so bizarre, in almost like a dream, like a weird fever dream.
Yeah.
Before you had shows like Tim and Eric, great show, awesome job, or whatever. Before you had stuff like that really made you sweat while you watched it. You had shows like Kenan and Kel that just brought a lot of just bizarre humor and little things that you notice later on. You go back and watch, and you're like, oh man, I didn't even notice that before. That's weird.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It seems like it has a modern Three Stooges vibe to it with the amount of slapstick physical comedy it's got thrown in.
Absolutely. And they play so well off of each other. Like I said, they did great on all that, and then to see them have their own show, it was very successful. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better sketch comedy show aimed at kids at that time.
And also a spinoff. One of many that would spin off from all that.
Yeah. So
Very
I dig
cool.
it. I dig it. I'm enjoying, you invited me on, and my girlfriend and I watched 7 episodes last night. I was like,
Wow.
I got to watch the ones for this, but then we're going to go through, and I haven't laughed that loud like in a long time, you know? Like I love comedies. I love like, you know, funny movies, funny shows, but there was like genuinely times when I was just like, this is so funny. And it's like, it's not adult humor, you know? It's not like, it doesn't have to be crass. It doesn't have to be rude. You know, you're not, you know, you're seeing some physical comedy, but you're not seeing things that are just like so over the top. You're just seeing like two friends having fun. They're on a show and you know, get to kind of be themselves.
Yeah.
So I love this show. Like I'm so excited to keep watching. Now I got a Paramount Plus subscription so I can watch all of the seasons now because they only have 2 on Netflix.
There you go. You have to search the forbidden episodes as well that are not included in their lineup.
Yeah.
Kenan and Kel, at face value, it was very much a fairly standard sitcom format. I mean, Kel was always the troubleshooter, or not the troublemaker, and Kenan was always the get rich quick schemer, and that was and Kel would always mess up the plans. It's almost like Lucille Ball.
Yeah, definitely.
But what elevates it is the performances between Kenan and Kel and the chemistry between the two, because they take a fairly simple, if not pretty standard script for regular sitcoms and then put it towards kids and just put their chemistry with it. And they elevate it just with their energy, manic energy, and then they would throw the ridiculous slapstick humor of all that and just threw all of it to Kel, which I swear at times it would just say in the script for the stage direction, Kel tears the setup, and then you just let him go. But and the other thing that I also, because you could tell this is a product of the 90s just by the fact that all the transitions were very much like Home Improvement.
Oh
yeah, I noticed that with like the objects in between. It was one of those things that when I saw that first episode last night, I was like, oh, that you haven't seen that in a while, and I love it. I wish we could bring it back. I mean, it's not like as like iconic like the Star Wars wipes or anything, but it is iconic for like television in that sense that it's just like you recognize it right away, and it's kind of like its own character in a way, you know, like its own side character of the show.
It really gives it some care. It really gives it character. It establishes its identity, which I think is great.
Yeah, I'll see you lose, tacky boy. Get out of here.
Welcome to this year's bag-off between Rigby's Grocery and Angus's Food Barn.
At least I know what I'm doing. Ow!
Is that the coupling or the flan?
Yeah, really fits the tone of comedy that's going on here, which is just kind of hammy, goofy, over the top, high energy. Like you're in for a good time when the curtains pull back after they do the "Aw, here it goes" iconic line.
Well, Mike's experience with Kenan and Kel it mirrors mine. I watched all that. I watched maybe the first couple of seasons, and then I just stopped, and I haven't revisited the series until we do episodes like this. So, and I didn't even see the made-for-TV movie Two Heads Are Better Than One. I have it, but I still haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna have to watch it for a Halloween episode sometime, because I hear there's a lot of
kind of callbacks.
There's a rabbit hole for that movie from what I've been told. But Brett, what is your experience with Kenan and Kel?
Well, I think 3 is a kind here, because I also got into Kenan and Kel from all that after the first few seasons. Just kind of jumped right on board like everyone else after getting used to them and their comedy sketches that I love, like Pierre Escargot or like Repairman and stuff like that, where their ability to perform comedy just outshines the moment that they're on screen. So, you know, naturally I watched it on SNICK, caught the first 2 seasons as well, season 3 and 4. I don't know where I was. I was probably over on Cartoon Network, because they had a killer lineup of like Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff
That's
Girls,
right.
Chicken back then, that just sucked all my attention away from Nickelodeon, which is why the later 90s is less familiar in my nostalgia vault.
Yeah,
exactly.
I forgot that was right about the time that Cartoons was taking off.
Yeah, I was about second, third grade at the time when that shift happened, but I really enjoyed it a lot. We might be talking a little bit about this in our Gullah Gullah Island retrospective that's coming up, or has already happened, depending on who sees this when. But there are some crossover trivia tidbits there that really make me enjoy the shows much more when you see the layers underneath that allow it to be a successful show for kids.
All right. Well, I guess we can just go ahead and start getting into the episode. First of all, which episode are you defending, Brett?
Oh, no. We're not going to just kind of stroll into the episode battle. You got to create some hype. We're going into battle here. Get your swords, get your shields. We're going to be clashing. We're going to shed blood and orange soda everywhere. It's time for our episode battle. Let's ready to rumble. And now you, Alex.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, good sir. Thank you. Which episode are you going to be defending?
I will be defending Baggin Saggin Kel as the sword.
And as the shield, I will be defending Tainting of the Skaroo. And, well, I guess we can go ahead and go over episode details. So for Tainting of the Screw, it was season 1, episode 2, and it was the first official episode of the series, aside from the pilot. It was written by Dan Schneider, and it was directed by Alan Rosen, and its air date was August 17th, 1996.
And for Baggin Saggin Kel, it was season 1, episode 12. It was written by Kim Bass, Neil Brennan, Ross Venokur, and it was directed by Howard Storm. Its air date is January 4th, 1997. And as noted when I was discussing with these guys earlier, this episode is actually absent from streaming services such as Paramount Plus, Netflix, and even the Amazon DVD Best of Season sets due to, unfortunately, controversy surrounding Dan Snyder with some child actors that he's worked with in decades since. So it's hard to find unless you kind of have enter the black market of 90s Nickelodeon on the internet, or it just falls into your lap during the pandemic like it did for me. So I'm very thankful that I have the footage today so I can defend this episode under the sword.
And since this episode is it's for our gagoids, if you want to see this episode, let us know. One of us will find a way to get it to you. We've got it, and more people need to see this episode. It's fun.
Just don't tell people where you got it, or else Viacom might be coming after us.
Well, we're not selling it. That's the thing. They can only come after us if we sell it or make it, put it out for public use, which we can't do that either. But we can send it to other people. So there's nothing wrong with that.
It's kind of like we're in a virtual back alley with a trench coat, and we're like, "Hey, want to buy an episode of Kenan and Kel? This one was banned. That means it's extra good."
Hey, Mac.
Whoa!
You want to buy a sundial?
He's not interested, all right? Come on, kid.
This reminds me of that sundial guy from Hercules that assaulted Hercules at the Big Olive. But that's a side tangent.
Hercules!
Mike, do you want to run through our categories that we're going to be discussing today?
Yeah, so today there are 5 categories that you guys are going to be battling it out. We have the story, the overall story, memorable quotes, which is going to be a fun one, supporting characters, use of food theme, which is very important in this episode or in these episodes, and overall lasting appeal.
Love it. Well, let's dig right into the battlefields with our weapons, shall we? I wish I had enough money to buy a sword right now so I can brand this shit on screen. Maybe for like season 8 or 9 when we have a budget, we can get real weapons. So
there you go.
Okay, so starting off with the story for Baggin Saggin Kel. The show begins with Kenan standing in front of a red curtain in an all-gray outfit. Kenan introduces Kel to the stage, who is wearing the same exact outfit. Kenan asks what Kel is doing, and he replies, "He's greeting the audience, yeah." But Kenan wants an explanation as to why they're dressed the same. Kel mentions he saw him wearing the outfit backstage, and he liked it so much that he went out and bought the same thing. Flustered, Kenan shouts, "Why?" To which Kel nonchalantly responds, "Well, we match." Kenan doesn't want to match Kel because he claims it's an assault on his individuality. Kenan tells Kel to change the outfit at once. Kel responds by taking his shirt off, right then and there in front of the audience. But Kenan tells him, never mind. He'll go backstage and change. Save your energy. Kenan walks off stage and Kel sends us into the storyline with a resounding, "Aw, here it goes." Inside Rigby's grocery store, the boys are glued to a video arcade cabinet with sound effects blaring throughout the space. The manager, Chris, approaches them and clears his throat to get their attention. Kenan turns around and hands him cough syrup because his throat sounds terrible. Chris puts the cough syrup back while explaining to Kenan that he did not hire him to play video games. He hands the boys 2 brooms, telling them, "I think you know what to do with these." In true Kenan and Kel fashion, they head to the center of the store, whisk a box of dingling confectionery treats off the shelf, and begin to play hockey with them. Kel puts on his hockey mask, and the two bat the snack food back and forth all around the store. Kenan takes a slap shot at Kel, who's standing in front of the entrance, then moves at the last second as the dingling smashes right into the shirt of Chris's rival, Angus. Angus slowly and sternly approaches Chris at the counter to shake his hand. Angus complains Chris's doofus friend nailed him in the chest. Immediately, the conflict escalates to a heated insult match between Kenan and Angus. Chris diffuses the fight, telling the two to save it for the contest. Kel asks about the contest, to which Chris brushes it off as just a little bagging thing. Angus elaborates that for the past 17 years, Chris and he have been having a contest to see who can bag groceries the fastest. Chris admits he's never won the entire time, which Kel finds pathetic. Angus ushers in his champion bagger, Salim, from Baghdad, which is appropriate, to further shove his victories in Chris's face. Before Angus departs, he leaves the trophy behind to further remind him who's in charge, then intentionally pushes a yellow jar off the shelf, breaking it on the floor. Transition to Kenan going through the ringer, trying to bag as many items as possible while Chris times him. Kenan collapses from the stress, quivering in pain and fear. Just then, a female customer approaches the register, asking Kenan to bag her groceries. Kenan freaks out, calling the lady an evil person, while he cries and wails, holding on to Chris for dear life. While Chris sits Kenan down to rest, Kel takes over and bags for the customer. He nonchalantly opens a paper bag, then proceeds to fill it with the lady's groceries in record time. Chris tells the lady to take the bag without her items being rung up. She turns her head confused, then scurries out of there with free groceries. Chris and Kenan celebrate by shouting and dancing in a circle while Kel looks at them perplexed, then jumps up and down with them. Chris explains Kel is going to be the one to help them beat Angus this year. He just knows it. Kel doesn't like competitions, however, explaining he had a traumatic episode trying to spell hippopotamus. Chris and Kenan convince Kel to represent Rigby's in the bagging competition this year, once Kel is overwhelmed by the possibility of having an endless supply of orange soda. He's literally rubbing bottles all over himself, essentially, in the episode. Enough said. Kel faints. We transition to the back room of the store where Kel is surrounded by oodles and oodles of filled brown paper grocery bags while he is furiously bagging one last one. Chris clicks his stopwatch while Kenan proclaims their star protege has just bagged everything in the store in 51 minutes and 19 seconds. A most impressive feat. Back up front, Angus returns to Rigby's dumbfounded by all the empty shelves. Kenan and Chris return to the register where they brag in his face that they'll beat Angus in the competition this year. Chris introduces Kel to Angus as their new bagging competitor. Angus doesn't take Kel seriously based on his dopey demeanor, I should say. Kel limbers up in a comical fashion, then proceeds to do a demonstration of his lightning-quick bagging. Kel shoves the filled bag into Angus, who is impressed by his skill. Chris antes up the wager this year, agreeing that whomever wins the competition will have to wear a wedding dress and work at the other person's store for a day. The two shake on the deal, then Angus breaks away all riled up. But before Angus leaves, he tries to lure Kel in with a tempting offer. He'll pay Kel $50 an hour in 90s money if Kel switches sides. Though Kenan and Chris object in an outrage at this display of trickery, Angus reassures Kel gently that he should think about it. Angus exits the grocery store, cackling a sinister laugh. Kel feels queasy from all the drama, and we freeze frame to a commercial. We re-enter the store after a commercial break to see Kel in a dimly lit Rigby's at night. Kel is naming the items while he bags his assortment of groceries on a small black table. But suddenly, Kel gets stuck. He tries to pull his arm out of the bag, then he gets both arms stuck, and in a wobbly transition, he gets sucked right in. Kel panics, wondering how he's going to get out now. In an instant, Kenan, Chris, Angus, and even the orange soda appear at the top of the bag looking down and taunting him. Angus drops candy and fruit all over Kel inside the bag. Kel is so traumatized by the bad dream that he wakes up flinging his bed sheets in Kenan's room while screaming and flailing around Kenan. Kenan and his parents ask, "What's all the screaming about?" Once Kenan's mom rushes in, Kel screams and hangs onto Kenan's boxing bag, frightened by her appearance. Mrs. Rockmore takes offense to Kel's words, but Mr. Rockmore calmly ushers her back to bed. Kel lets go of the boxing bag and pleads to Kenan not to let him go through with the contest, as he's cracking from the pressure. Kenan brainstorms an idea, and we transition back to Rigby's the next day. Angus walks in with a wedding dress and hands it to Chris and Kel. They examine the dress while Kel mentions, "Ooh, it's pretty." Angus demands an answer in regards to his offer, but Angus fuels the fire some more while Kenan tries to defend Kel. Kel retaliates in an uproar, grabbing the wedding dress. Kel is fed up in being in Kenan's shadow. He can handle this himself. He shakes hands with Angus, and the two leave the grocery store. Transition to a room-filled competition set up at Rigby's. The referee introduces Kenan to the table while Kel enters with some fly moves to the tune of LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out. After some showboating and further arguing with Kenan, Kel takes his place at the table. The referee announces the first bagger to bag 3 bags is declared the winner for this year's competition. The ref blows the whistle and both friends furiously fly through groceries as they bag them. Kenan finishes 1 bag while Kel struggles to get 1 bag done. Angus keeps shouting at Kel, "Keep bagging, keep bagging!" But the pressure of the competition gets to Kel and he faints right there on the table. Despite Kenan's shock, Kenan ramps up his speed and finishes bagging for Rigby's, thus securing their win. Angus is in a fit that he lost, but the ref washes his hands of the situation, then leaves. Kenan grabs the wedding dress and places it over Angus's chest. The crowd chants along with Kenan, pressuring Angus to wear the dress in front of everyone and humiliate himself. Chris hands the bride a broom, triggering Angus to storm out of the grocery store. Warning Chris, "I'll get you next time!" Chris and Kenan make fun of his warning, then help Kel regain consciousness. Apparently, it was all set up. Kenan and Kel had planned this the whole time. The fight, the fainting, everything. Chris embraces the boys, and we fade to red curtain stage where Kenan and Kel thank the audience for coming. Kenan spots a beautiful woman in the audience and sits beside her and asks her which part she liked the best. She liked it when Kenan played with the ding-a-ling. Kel tries to butt in, but Kenan ignores him. Kenan invites the woman for a cup of hot cocoa and walks off stage with her. Kel shouts to Kenan that he likes cocoa and doesn't know what next week's show is going to be. Of course, Kel shouts to the audience, "Aw, here it goes," and scampers off stage. And that is the end of the episode.
Oh, my ding-a-ling.
My ding-a-ling, I want you to play with my ding-a-ling. That's a Simpsons reference.
Forgot all about that.
My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling, I want you to play with my ding-a-ling.
This act is over.
Oh, that clip is going in here.
Oh, that's actually a
Is it from something else?
no, it's a song. It's not. I mean, the Simpsons used it, but
Billy Crystal?
no, it wasn't Billy Crystal. Crap. Chuck Berry. It's a Chuck Berry song.
Chuck Berry. Yeah,
Wow.
okay. I don't know why
Rock and roll
Billy
great
Crystal.
himself.
No, you really need to, if you can find it, which I know you can, because it's on YouTube. But he would have all the girls in the audience saying "my," and then all the guys would say "ding-a-ling." My ding-a-ling. I want you to play with my ding-a-ling.
Wow.
And then, of course, he would say something like, isn't that wonderful? Don't the girls all have a beautiful passage? In the song, in the song, in the song.
But you know what? It wasn't but 2 girls out here and 1 little girl back here taking care of all them ding-a-lings. And that's entirely too much. That's entirely. We need more girls to participate now.
Yeah, if you want to call it that.
It's great.
I love it. Any questions for me, Mike, about my episode before we move on to Alex?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah, Yep, you retold it exactly how it went.
The story category is usually one that takes the longest, but
yeah,
it's also the pretty straightforward one.
Yeah.
Well then, tell us about Tainting of the Screw, Alex.
Absolutely. So the story begins with Kenan walking out in front of the audience, standing in front of the red curtain. He introduces himself as Kenan, but a lady in the audience asks where Kel is. Suddenly, a strange rod pokes Kenan from behind the curtain. Kenan tugs on it, bringing Kel to the front of the stage, donning a fisherman's outfit, along with a bucket of red snapper, not tuna fish, as Kenan mentions later. Kenan lovingly plays with the fish, mentioning that he likes tuna, and Kel orders Kenan not to be thinking of him and tuna, smiling and all that stuff. Kel says his iconic here it goes line to the audience, and the curtain draws back to reveal the Rockmore parents talking in the kitchen during breakfast. Just as Mr. Rockmore is about to sip his steaming hot coffee, Kel bursts in from the back kitchen door, causing Kenan's dad to spill the coffee all over himself. Kel points out to Mr. Rockmore that he has coffee all over his shirt, and then Kel spots his muffin. But Mr. Rockmore snatches it before him and shoves the entire muffin into his mouth. Kenan enters, wishing everyone a good morning, and kisses his mother. Mr. Rockmore tries to explain the wild events that previously occurred with his mouth stuffed with muffin, then leaves the room frustrated. Kenan and Kel immediately pump themselves up for the Chicago Bulls game that they're about to watch on TV by imitating the basketball players. As if Mr. Rockmore's day wasn't rough enough already, their shenanigans cause Kel to slam dunk a fruit into Mr. Rockmore's shirt. The parents leave the kitchen, leaving the two friends to do a silly dance to La Bamba, while Kenan assembles the sandwich in preparation for the game. Kel rushes into the living room to hand Kenan his sandwich, and Kenan takes one swift bite, tries to talk to Kel, then starts flailing and convulsing in response to choking on his sandwich. Kel does his best to perform the Heimlich on Kenan, popping out the offending chunk of tuna from Kenan's stomach, probably more his throat. Kenan picks up a screw that he found in the tuna, then shows it to Chris, who is equally baffled by the finding. Outraged, Kenan declares a plan to sue the Luna Tuna Fish Company, and Chris's lawyer cousin meets the boys in the back of the store to discuss the details of the case. Upon hearing they could possibly win $10 million from the settlement, Kenan's eyes light up, imagining what he could possibly buy with that money. The lawyer says that he'll take the case for 40% of the winnings, but Kenan unabashedly declines. Transition to Kenan's bedroom, where he flies his fingers across the keyboard to write a letter to the press and news media regarding his case. Kenan enters his daydream of what it's like to win all that money. His daydream includes an arcade basketball shoot hoops game, the arcade cabinet from Rigby's, and a red-hot sports car with a teenage girl in it. All the while he is passing out tips by the thousands from his thick wad in his hands. He walks over to his parents, sitting on a motorcycle, to hand his parents 100 G's so that they can each get a sailboat that they want. Kenan leans on his sports car while a flurry of dollars engulf him once Kel turns on the new stereo system. Meanwhile, Kel has a short daydream about his cut of the money, where he ecstatically is surrounded by various prepared deli hams. Later at Kenan's press conference held at Rigby's, Kel demonstrates Kenan's post-tuna stress disorder, where he flies off the counter once he sees the can. Kenan further compounds his illness as reporters continue to grill him with questions and flash their cameras. A few moments later, the Luna Tuna Company calls Kenan to discuss an out-of-court cash settlement. Cut to a commercial. After the commercial break, Kenan and Kel are introduced to Henry Luna, president of the Luna Tuna Corporation. They have an awkward yet comical exchange of greetings, then get down to business. President Henry Luna offers a lifetime supply of Luna Tuna, but Kenan throws back the offer, claiming he came here for $10 million and nothing less. Henry Luna offers 1,000, then 5,000, and even $1 million to drop the case and the lifetime supply of tuna. Kel begs him to take it, but Kenan refuses to back down, and Kenan and Kel have a little pat on the back session where they're constantly talking smack to Henry Luna for a good 10 seconds, and then they are immediately thrown out of the executive office by security empty-handed. Later, back at Kenan's bedroom, the two friends conduct a mock triangle, complete with a triangle.
Mock trial. You mean it's not really a triangle? It's actually
it's a Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
Later, back at Kenan's bedroom, the two friends conduct a mock trial, complete with stuffed animal jury. Kel interrupts Kenan, saying that the monkey shouldn't be that close to the tiger, and Kenan tries his best to run Kel through the story so he can appease the court in Kenan's favor. Kel is stressed out by the ordeal, so Kenan tells him to think about ham, and they'll keep going over the script until they get it right. Many hours and many pizza slices later, Kel has the story down pat. Later at the courthouse, the judge asks if the plaintiff is prepared to make a statement. Kenan begins his case, addressing the jury about his trauma with a can of tainted tuna. The bailiff shows Exhibit A, an empty can of tuna, as well as Exhibit B, a screw. Kenan calls his first witness, Kel, to the stand, but Kel acts like he isn't there. After the bailiff imposingly escorts Kel to the witness stand, Kel takes the oath by high-fiving the bailiff, and then Kenan proceeds to begin the story. Not one sentence into his story does Kel crumble under pressure. Kel confesses to dropping the screw in the tuna in one fateful moment of 90s Nick history, and Kel basically convulses erratically all over the courtroom, while Kenan feels the embarrassment of the entire world on him, knowing that he had lost the case before it even began. With his tail between his legs, Kenan utters to the judge, "No more questions." Fade in and out to the red curtain stage, where Kenan admits that his plan didn't work out too well, but he'll come back with a better one soon before long. Meanwhile, Kel is emptying hundreds of cans of tuna onto the stage, looking for more screws to frame Luna Tuna. Kenan takes Kel by the hand and whisks him away off stage for another harebrained scheme. End of the episode.
Man, those were two really fun episodes to revisit. Just so much hilarity and insanity and hijinks, but it's like there's never a dull moment in either of them, which is going to make it hard for you, Mike, to make your decision for this category.
Yeah.
There was one thing in particular that it's a very subtle thing, but it makes me laugh. But it was during Kenan's dream sequence. The kid loses the arcade. Oh, no, got the new high score. Got the new high score in the arcade. Congratulations. Here's $1,000. And then the other kid loses the Hot Shots basketball thing. It's like, oh, man, sorry. Here's $1,000. Then Chris shows up and he gives him a tip. Yes, here you go. $1.
Here's $1 for you, huh?
Thank you, sir, boss. Bless you.
Thank you.
And he was so grateful for that $1 too.
He was. Thank you, boss.
Clearly, Kenan doesn't think much of Chris.
No.
Poor guy. Yeah, there's a lot of great moments in each of these episodes. I even loved how Orange Soda was personified with a whiny female voice when he was talking down to Kel in the bag. It's like, oh, I didn't know Orange Soda sounded that way. That is kind of scary.
Who are you?
I'm Orange Soda, and you'll never drink me again.
And also when Kel was just having his like I dropped the screw in the tuna fit where he's just like flopping all over everything like a dead fish, and he gets into the judge's box and she's just like, whoa, give me some space, man. Yeah, that was like the highlight of his whole moment at the end.
Watching that last night, that part specifically, like it goes on for way longer than it should, but that's what kind of makes it funny. It's like, it's funny. Okay, is it gonna, he's still going. And then it's just, boom, it's funny again. It's so perfect.
Yeah, how far can he push it? And he definitely pushed it as far as he could. Yeah, you even see that in the expression of the Luna Tuna president on the other side of the courtroom. He's like, oh, we've got him now. He confessed. And then he's like, what are you doing? And then he's like, oh, is this still going on? Like all the stages of grief.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I love you, man. Are we still brothers?
Yeah, it's great.
I will say, like, to have something that memorable, like during the second episode, or I mean, yeah, technically the second episode is like, they did a really good job. I mean, they hooked you in right away. And even with a lower production value that you see in that show, like they go to a lot of places. You know, it's the house, store, the back of the store, you know, the CEO or the tuna fish company's office, the courtroom. I mean, it's funny seeing the courtroom like with like 4 jurors there in this like really tiny little box.
Yeah,
I wonder if that courthouse was repurposed a lot. I mean, I know they repurposed a lot of things, but I know they used that courthouse in later seasons of All That, and also in the Amanda Show. I bet they used the same set with different dressings.
Yeah, Trudy.
You almost have to.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of props are shuffled around depending on when certain shows end and begin, just for budget constraints. But getting back to your note on like the second episode just coming in hot, I feel like Nickelodeon has like a weird magical association with the number 2, because they also did that with Are You Afraid of the Dark, Laughing in the Dark, coming in hot and memorable. Yeah. And then there's another one with a second episode. Zeke the Plumber from Salute You Shorts. Yeah. So it's like these 3 can all go head to head, and it'd be a really tough fight. Just because there's also memorable moments of 90s Nick culture. Before we move on to our next category, which is memorable quotes, Alex, do you want to make mention of some fun little trivia tidbits that you found throughout this episode, if you have any?
Sure. Now, I know that you had said the judge.
Yes.
She was also on
Gullah Gullah Island as Natalie's mother / James and Shayna's grandmother. Yeah, this was the only episode she appeared in Kenan and Kel, but she appeared for 5 episodes in Gullah Gullah Island. Her name is Pixie Wales. And then for Baggin Saggin Kel, the referee who judged the bagging contest, that's actually none other than Walter's father from Welcome Freshman. I forgot his name. It's like something weird if you want to look it up real quick. But that was the only episode. That was the only episode of Kenan and Kel he was in as well.
Yeah, and also, and I'm sure Brett, you noticed this too, but in Kenan and Kel, in the Tainting of the Screw, at one point when Kel is making the letter for the press conference, and Kel is sitting beside him, and he's wearing a Munster mask, a Grandpa Munster mask,
Yep.
and it makes him startle. That's one of the same masks that they used on My Brother and Me.
Yep, the charity episode with Kendall Gill and his autograph.
That's right.
Yeah. See, reusing props right there. Also, strange enough, another Gully Gully Island connection is that Vanessa Baden, who plays Cairo, Kenan's little sister, is nowhere to be found in either of these episodes, which I thought was unusual. Yeah, like
wasn't there one in the beginning of the tuna episode?
There was, but it wasn't her.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, the referee, his name was Al Arisim.
There we go. That's it. Yeah, I liked him a lot as Walter's father. And he was pretty good here, too.
He was. I didn't know if the cadence that he would use to speak as Walter's father was a character choice or if that was really how he talked. And after watching him as the referee, it's like, oh, that's how he actually talks. Okay.
Don't worry about it, son. I'm cool. See you at home.
Yeah. See ya.
I'm off to my donut eating contest.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Well, Nick, want to introduce the next category?
So the next category is memorable quotes.
Awesome. Well, I love bagging stuff and stuffing bags full of grocery items, as I showed in the beginning of this episode. So I'm going to pull out a boatload of quotes that I managed to dig up during this episode. Way more than I expected, actually. Starting off, we've got "You've got ding-a-ling on you" from Chris. And it's great. Just the imagery as it's like all smeared on him. We also have, "Oh, gee, Angus, if I knew it was you, then I would have ding-a-linged you in the head" from Kenan. Just another one singer. We also have, "That's pretty big talk from a kid who lost it at Rigby's last year." Huh? What do you say to that? I say, "I wish you brushed your teeth, man." Angus to Kenan, as Angus is leaning in, taunting him. Another quote is, "You didn't ring these up? It doesn't matter. Yeah, just take them." As I mentioned before in the story when the female customer ran away free groceries. Of course, we have the iconic, "Who loves orange soda? Kel loves orange soda. Is it true? Mm-hmm. I do. From Chris, Kenan, and Kel all talking together. And then we have Angus looking at all the shelves after Kel has bagged everything in the store, where he's like, "Whoa, they must have had one mother of a sale." And then we have, "Do you want to kiss the trophy goodbye now or wait until Saturday?" by Kenan. Followed by, "My, aren't the boys feeling cocky today? Extra cocky." Kenan talking to Angus again. With the wind knocked out of him, Angus says, "He's pretty good," after the groceries are shoved into him from Kel. Kenan says in this one, "Kel, you're not supposed to put yourself in the bag, kooky," during his fever dream of being stuck in the bag, which I thought was terrifying but also funny in a weird way. There's another quote where he says, after wildly reacting, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rockmore. I thought you were a big, nasty, horrible monster," that Kel says to her while she's covered up in like a night face mask. That one really riled her up. After that, we have, "Did I come at a bad time? Wherever you are is a bad time," Angus to Kenan, which feels very meta nowadays.
Yes.
In the 2020s. We also have, "When I'm done with you, you're going to be so embarrassed that you're going to be wearing that bag on your head," Kenan says, I think to Kel. "Well, I'm going to beat you so bad. I'm going to beat you so bad." You get the point, because Kel couldn't come up with a good comeback before the competition. And then a bunch of other quotes that they say before, during, and after. "I'm in there like swimwear," that Kel says. And then Kenan responds, "Got it going on like a pot of neck bones breaking till the break of dawn." Sounds like a rapping lyric there. And then Chris says to Kenan, Kel fainted. Well, what should we do?" Bag! Not even stopping for him, which is great timing. And then, of course, we have the referee who says, "I'm off to my donut eating contest," which I just found delightful in his nonchalance. Then we have Kenan to Angus saying, "Here's your pretty dress, Fungus. Put on the dress." "You make a lovely bride, Fungus. Mabo, Gertrude, bring the camera up. My little fungus is getting married. Which Kenan also says to him at the end when Angus loses the competition. And then lastly, we have, wait a minute. Are you guys telling me we beat Angus through trickery and deceit? I love you guys! And then they all hug and share a moment at the very end. So, bag load of great quotes here from start to finish.
And you're going to need to double bag it.
Yeah, I'm going to need some plastic
those.
over that paper.
Yeah, extra cocky was the one that got me. I was like, oh gosh.
How about you, Alex? What did you find in the Tainting of the Screw for quotes?
Well, to start, we've got Kel referring to Kenan at the very beginning. Don't be thinking about me and tuna. And also, right at the very beginning, right after Roger had just spilled coffee all over himself. Gee, well, he said back to Kel, but he said it wrong. If you pay attention. Because he said, hey, you got stuff on you got some coffee on your shirt. He goes, gee, well, thanks for informing me, Cal.
Oh.
He did not say Kel.
I thought that was a typo.
He absolutely said Cal.
Wow.
So definitely pull that up here.
Slip of the tongue, yeah.
And then the one, not necessarily the first one that I thought was funny, but the second one, because it was an exchange between Kenan and Roger, or I'm sorry, Kel and Roger, but Kel just goes, muffin! And then the whole thing is he straight screamed at Kel and then shoved a muffin while he's screaming. That sound, not the action, but the sound is what gets me.
Yeah. And the crumbs are spewing out while he's trying to maintain his composure.
And the other one that I also is the while they were singing along to La Bamba, gonna eat lots of tuna fish. That
la 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 tuna, gonna eat lots of tuna fish. Yeah.
And I swear Kenan has had to very recently watch Scarface, because he was doing a Scarface voice, especially during that gonna eat lots of tuna. And then later when he was doing
say hello to my little tuna.
Yeah. he was doing lot of Scarface.
Heavy thick accents on certain syllables. Yeah.
And then as Kenan was choking, Kel said, "Are you choking? I'll dial 411."
Wrong number. He's gonna die.
And then right after he was done choking, which really reminded me of Young Frankenstein, where he was like, "Sedative." And he's like, "Did I look hungry?" And then also when Chris, the exchange between Chris and Kenan, Chris had said, "Do you know?" Kel asks, "Do you know a lawyer that I can call?" "Sure, my cousin is a lawyer." To which Kel interrupts with, "My cousin's in the circus." Thanks.
Like that's relevant.
And then at one point, Chris tells Kel, "Try not to speak." And then whenever they were talking about the frog that they sued a restaurant or something, and they only had half a frog that was in it, Kel says, after, "You know what we got to do, don't you?" "Yeah, we got to find the other half of that frog." And the other one that I really just crack up at is the ham. just that whole bit. Ham.
Before orange soda, there was ham. The original food obsession.
The reporter asks Kenan, "If you ask me, you ought to sue Luna Tuna for $20 million. Nah, I don't want to be greedy. $10 million will do just fine."
It's like the best part about that quote is he's in the middle of acting out all this trauma, like, "Oh, I can't even look at tuna. Oh, 10 million will do just fine, thank you."
Yeah.
And then resumes being terrified of tuna. It's great.
And even to be honest, he really potentially could have some real trauma from this. He doesn't really have to act this up, but it's Kenan. We know he's going to.
Yeah. To make another quick Simpsons reference, it reminds me of the shredded Crustio that Bart swallowed in his cereal. So for any Simpsons fans out there, it's very similar, finding a piece of metal in something that you take for granted while you eat.
Then Henry Luna during his when he first introduced himself, said, "My great grandpa Luna found Luna Tuna Corporation. He loved and respected tuna fish and those who ate them. But if he knew about this screw scandal, it would kill him. That is, if he weren't already dead."
It would kill him again.
And at one point, Kenan also said, "Because of you, I am paranoid, traumatized, and fishophobic." And while they were doing the rehearsing of the jury, rehearsing the scene, trying to get all the story straight, and he's got all the animals. And after the second time he points something out about the monkey shouldn't be so close to something, Kenan says, "Will you forget about the monkey, all right?" And then just takes the monkey and throws it, to which Kel says, "That's Jerry tampering." And then as Kel is approaching the witness stand and the bailiff is right behind him, "Man, why are you following me, man? What's up? What's up?" And then the one at the very end, the big one. "Hey, drop the screw!"
I drop the screw in the tuna. And it just goes on for like a good 5 minutes.
Forever.
Yep.
His posture changes quite a bit during it.
It does.
He turns into a pretzel. Like, he even bends his ankles. I'm like, what do you do, man? You don't even have to go this hard.
Yeah. He was definitely character acting there for sure.
Yeah.
Felt like some like Jim Carrey vibes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, moving on. Mick, what is our third category?
Next up, we have the supporting characters.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I figured Kenan and Kel trade places being the main character in most of these episodes, so I figured we'd take a look at some of the people who helped the story along. Of course, we have, in Baggin Saggin Kel, Kenan's the primary character, but we also have Chris, Angus... Oh, sorry. Kel is the main character because the episode's named Baggin Saggin Kel. So Kenan, Chris, Angus, and the referee are more or less there to help him with the story. And I really like Kenan's lines. He does a lot to kind of initiate the competition, just to kind of fuel the fire, saying, "No, we're going to win this." Constantly going head to head with Angus, even though Chris is kind of defeated at the beginning because he's lost for 17 years. He doesn't have much fight left in him. And even though Kenan isn't like the greatest bagger in the world, at least he knows when he's being trampled on and pushed around, and he doesn't want to have any of that. So I like how he steps up to defend Chris and brings the challenge on with the help of Kel, of course. We have Chris. He's just pretty much there for most of the episode, but I do like when he gets sucked into the vortex of Kenan and Kel's like chemistry that's going on, where he gets really excited too, like at the end where he's like, "I love you guys," or like, "Keep bagging," even though Kel's fainted. It's nice to see him liven up and really play along with the scenario rather than just be a side character that you dump self-deprecating lines on, because he seems like a beta male kind of character. And then of course you have Angus, the notorious, and yes, I mean notorious, ANG, Dan Snyder himself, from All That fame. And he seemed, it's funny because when I first saw him, I didn't make the connection of who he was, but he reminded me of a lot of like a meaner John Candy, because I watched Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Home Alone growing up before I was familiar with this character. And I think he makes a really good villain where it's like big corporation versus little independent store, and you kind of see that representation in the way he walks, the way he talks to Chris, kind of putting him down constantly. And it makes a good foil for characters, which further leads to their underdog victory all the sweeter at the end, because who doesn't want to stick it to the man? And then the referee, he's just a great character, and considering his ties to Welcome Freshmen, I like how he takes this as like a serious competition, as like a referee for a boxing match would take it. So I enjoy seeing him there. I think that's pretty much it for supporting characters in this episode. We don't see Kyra. We don't really see either of Kenan's parents in this. Of course, you got Henry Luna, who's the president executive, and I wouldn't really consider. Oh, sorry, damn it. That's the other story. See, I'm grasping for straws. Yeah, those are the characters. I'm just gonna leave it at that before I dig myself into a hole.
Well, I will say something fairly interesting about the Baggin Saggin Kel is, yes, elephant in the room because he was Dan Schneider, but at the time when all of us were oblivious to everything that was going on, he really did a good job with his character, and it's probably no surprise that he's really good at being unlikable characters. But as is, both Dan and Dan, they had worked together doing Head of the Class and the sitcom, which Dan Schneider was a writer for. But both him and Dan Frischman performed together, which I'm sure is a big reason why we have Chris when he was playing that role of Chris. Which also why the chemistry worked really well between the two of them, because as much as we, the audience, don't care that much for Schneider now, the two of them did play very well off of each other. Yeah. And he did do a really good job at being a dick. But for Tainting of the Screw, this is more Kenan's story, and Kel is very much being the supporting character throughout the whole thing, which I think is fun to watch. Now, knowing that Kel is aware the entire episode that it's his fault and keeps trying to get Kenan to take anything. Even at first, he's like, you don't want to sue them, do you? And then after that, it was like, take it. Take every deal. Take every deal. Which you could argue that he's just airheaded and will be happy to take anything. But also the fact that he's not brain dead.
I would take $1 million and run.
He knows that he's going to get caught sooner or later. So whereas the $1 million, yeah, take that and go. But beforehand, when it was just a little bit, he was like, no, take that, knowing full well that Kenan's not going to do it. Chris is back. He plays far less of a prominent role in this episode as he does the Baggin Saggin, but he does help get things moving with knowing how much, because he establishes the connection between Kenan and a lawyer. And the lawyer is also a supporting character, but plays it fairly straightforward. There's not really a whole lot of jokes as far as the lawyer goes. He's, for once, he is straight man, and Kenan gets to be the silly one, while Kel's just kind of in the background, especially when he's like, $10 million.
How much money do you think we can get?
Well, in cases like these, it's not unusual to ask for as much as 5, 10 million.
Good Lord, that's a lot of money.
But then once they realize that he's not, the lawyer's going to take 40% of the cut, it's like, no. So he's cut from the show altogether. You do have the Rockmore parents, but again, they are mostly there at the beginning just to serve as a cold open for the audience and get them laughing right off the bat with physical humor, because we like watching Roger get frustrated with Kel. It's a formula that works. And we do have pretty much the entire court, the judge, the bailiff, and the jury, but most of them don't have much. The bailiff does add quite a bit of comedy because he's very, very straight man. When we first see him, and he's just showing Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and the judge is also not having any of this nonsense, because she's telling Kenan, all right, does the plaintiff want to have an opening statement? And of course, Kenan, not being a lawyer, has no idea that he is the plaintiff. So he's like looking off to the side. Yeah, someone's gonna lose their license and be able to go to court. They don't get it together here. Oh, that's me! Ha ha ha! But the judge is pretty much just not putting up with any of the BS, and so is the bailiff, which really works well for them. So there's quite a few supporting characters, but whereas Baggin Saggin is smaller in quantity. They have a lot more screen time, so they're able to flesh out that feud more between them. But for Tainting of the Screw, and you also have Luna and his staff while they're trying to make a plea bargain, and also the press whenever they're all trying to get on the side. So there's a lot of supporting characters where there's less in terms of story for a smaller group. There's a lot of supporting characters peppered throughout to keep the narrative going.
Yeah, with one line here and there usually.
Yeah.
I want to say two things before we move on because I remember them while Alex is saying it. The Rockmore parents actually appear in my episode because that's when he has the fever dream that he wakes up from, and they show up in his bedroom. So they're not entirely absent, but they are there in a minimal supportive way for some of Kel's jokes to fully play out, which I appreciate, even if we don't see him that much. And also, that's a good point about Dan and Dan's chemistry on screen when they play off each other, because they do feel very much like an Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy comedy duo to me, where they got the setup and then the payoff with the way they're interacting with each other. And love or hate either of the people, I think they do a really good job standing out more here than they would in other episodes where they're taking a backseat role.
Definitely.
Oh, and of course, the Orange Soda is a supporting character too, because you know how much Orange Soda was getting all up in Kel's grill, and I think this is one of the first season 1 episodes where he really embraces that love of Orange Soda and kind of ditches the ham love. Although I'm surprised that didn't show up in my episode more too.
And the Orange Soda talked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which that's pretty important.
It is. It can think for itself.
It had more lines than I had.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. So moving on. What is our next category?
The next category is use of food.
Well, both of these are very food-centric episodes, but in quite different ways. So starting off with Baggin Saggin Kel, as you might have noticed, this is all about groceries. So you're going to see food everywhere, even behind me for this episode, for all you Gackoids who are watching the video version of this on YouTube. We've got all the groceries constantly being bagged throughout the episode. There's just too many to mention. Of course, you got, the iconic Dingling food snacks, whatever they are, made by Hostess Coffee Cakes or Little Debbie, being used as hockey pucks, being smashed into Angus. You got that weird mustard jar being thrown on the floor. You've got Orange Soda, of course. How could I forget that? Not only being admired and cherished by Kel, but even talking to him during his dream, which just further cements his relationship with Orange Soda as something bigger than the show, even bigger than the screw in the tuna bit, which was great up until this point, and then it kind of got dethroned, at least from my perspective. We've got a little bit of other food. Well, no, I'm going into Alex's episode again because I was thinking of the pizza, but I can't really explain too much. There's just food everywhere with the groceries. Dissect it, if you will, afterwards by watching the episode.
Well, for my episode, whereas Brett's is mostly focused on trying to bag food, mine is mostly focused on suing somebody who screwed up the food.
Literally.
But screwed up. But we do have a bit of physical humor with Roger spilling coffee all over himself and then stuffing his face with a muffin and then trying to talk with said muffin in his face. And then we also have the use of tuna, or even whenever it's clearly not tuna but they're still calling it tuna, from where you see it at the beginning that ties into the main episode, and then all the tuna at the end of the episode whenever Kel is trying to find another screw in it. But the main episode focuses on tuna fish and how there was a screw in it, and Kenan was absolutely in the right. If this was actually the tuna fish company's fault, which it obviously we know it wasn't. It's a part of Nickelodeon legend. We know who did this, but throughout the entire episode, the first time we watched it, because this is one of those you can never watch this episode the same. After you get that reveal at the end of Kel that it's his fault, you will never be able to get that feeling again. But that first time when we watched this episode, we really thought that Kenan was duped and had an accident happen to him that was the manufacturer's fault. And how many times have we heard something like that? Because I remember in the 90s when McDonald's was going through a big ordeal because they didn't have their coffee mugs labeled that it was hot, and then some lady spilled coffee all over herself and had burns, and then she successfully sued McDonald's, and then they had to go through a big thing. And then all the times that we've heard stories on the news in the 90s from where they've gone to a fast food company and something was in their food or something was in a bag of potato chips, because it was always in the news where a manufacturer would have some kind of a weird faulty scenario, and then they would get sued because of a simple mistake on their part. So we can, and it still happens, except now it's not on the news, it's all over social media. But that is still a very, I mean, both of these things still happen. The only thing that I don't see really happening is having bagging competitions. I'm sure that there probably have been somewhere, because weirder things have happened, but it's far less common and far less known about than a fluke accident happening and the public find out about it and then a lynching upon the manufacturer for it. But that's pretty much as far as things go for this episode in concerning the food topic.
And that tuna at the very end, when he was emptying all the cans, looked so disgusting.
Yeah. It was Jabba the Hutt.
It was, yeah. I don't like tuna. I mean, like, maybe on sushi is about as far as it goes, but canned tuna is cat food. And I can't do it. I cannot do it. And like this episode, I was like, oh, this is about tuna in a can. And, you know, thankfully you don't see a whole lot. There was a weird thing. I hope I'm not like interrupting like you guys.
You're fine. Go for it.
There's in this episode, in this particular episode, the Tainting of the Screw, that was so bizarre to me is I don't know what time Kenan is waking up in the morning, in the very beginning. I mean, it looks like it's the morning because he's wearing pajamas. Mm-hmm. But then they're going to watch the Bulls game, which that's in the morning. And then he's making a tuna sandwich and a sausage for breakfast. It was just like all of that was just like, I don't like any of this.
Some weird continuity.
Well, I mean, it could potentially, this looking for some possibilities, but it could be that he had recorded the game from the night before and he's going to sit down and watch it. It's unlikely, but also if it's over the weekend or on a break of some kind when the teenagers would stay up all night long and then fall asleep, he could have been waking up in the mid-afternoon, and I mean, it's breakfast time to him,
but the dad's eating a muffin.
That is true, and coffee.
Yeah, and coffee, which, I mean, unless you're one of those people that like to drink coffee that late in the afternoon. I can't do it. Past 1 p.m., I'm in for a rough night.
Yeah, it's ambiguous what time of day it takes place. It's like brunch almost. Saturday brunch.
Yeah.
Two things I was going to say. I have to try and recall them. Oh, when you were talking about all the things that people found in their food and sued companies, like food companies over, it just reminded me of like a really gross one where at one point Wendy's had a finger in their chili, and like, oh, I can't imagine what that was like, not only for the person who found it, but the person who lost their finger, and they had to just keep on going, packing the food or whatever after that.
I think that turned out to be that the people that were trying to sue, that was They did a
Like
they were
they massacred their own finger.
It wasn't. I think they got it off of. It might have actually been one of their fingers, but like it wasn't like it didn't happen like at the Wendy's factory or whatever. It was legit. Like, yeah, they were trying to get money. They almost got away with it, but you went too far with that. Like you went a little too far. Like
the McDonald's hot coffee started a bad trend.
Yeah. That reminded me. I don't remember if it was the movie Down Periscope or if it was McHale's Navy. It was one of those two, but it was the one that had you like it the sauce.
Yeah.
You like it the juice?
You like it the juice. Rob Schneider. It was the one that had Rob Schneider. Yes. And because he comes down to the soup kitchen and tells the mess hall and tells the chef, there was a finger in my food, and yesterday it was a Band-Aid. And the chef says, sorry, sir, the Band-Aid was holding the finger on.
Gives new meaning to finger foods.
Yes. There was I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was it might have been Lay's, but Lay's had made this specific chip that was made with this different type of oil. So it was like 99.9% fat free, but it was made with this oil called Olean. And people were like loving it, but what they didn't realize was that it caused some diarrhea when you ate the chips. So that was like a huge thing that I feel like that was like late 90s.
Interesting.
Another one of those things that like companies just tried and put out there and then got put through the ringer for that.
And then it backfired.
Literally. Yes.
Yeah. Now it just makes me think of Crystal Pepsi and all the harebrained soda ideas that people come up with to seem more appealing in the Coke Pepsi wars of the late 80s.
Gentlemen, I give you Crystal Pepsi. All the great taste of regular Pepsi, but without that troublesome opacity. What if you're drinking a regular Pepsi and somebody's coming at you with a knife? Huh? You won't be able to see him past your Pepsi. And then who's dead, huh? You're dead. Stabbed. Crystal Pepsi.
I'd take it again. I'd bring it back.
Invisible cola.
All right, well, what is our last category?
The very last category is lasting appeal.
It may not be quite as memorable as my opponent's episode because it doesn't have that big finish at the end, but it definitely should be because it's very satisfying from start to finish. It's really unfortunate that all the big streaming services are kind of burying this episode as if it didn't exist just because Dan Snyder makes a role in it. But if you can overlook that, I love the writing. I think the comedy timing is just great. I love seeing this crazy scenario where you have to compete in a bagging competition and there's a trophy involved and Kel has to like constantly practice and time himself. Like that's a unique story concept that should be celebrated or at least acknowledged in 90s Nick history. I mean, also with the quotes, you got tons of them. Like I got a mountain of them based on our previous category. So there's lots of comedy to be had and good laughs to be shared. Let me see what else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a great episode. I love Kel's introduction and infatuation with orange soda. It really is I haven't seen too much of Kenan and Kel, the series as a whole, mostly season 1 and season 2. And I've always remembered this one standing out to me more than any other, even the Tainted of the Screw one when I first saw it, just because I liked the idea of fast bagging or being super efficient at things because I was like an overachiever growing up. And it just reminds me of like little things I think of when I'm like packing my lunch or when I worked at Target. I had to bag all my customers' groceries to like stand out as like employee of the month or get good marks so I wouldn't be fired, that sort of thing. And even if my episode doesn't really have like a pop culture, what's the word for lasting a long time? Pop culture, let's say expiration date, because we're on a food theme here. At least it impacts me in an important way that I still think of it quite often, just because of how I handle groceries and even just go shopping throughout the day. So if you manage to find this from the depths of the internet, definitely give it a watch, enjoy the jokes, and if nothing else, relish the fact that Dan Snyder lost a bagging contest and has to wear a wedding dress.
You know, you make a lovely bride, Fungus.
And I will say, in regards to Baggin Saggin Kel, that we've already established it in my episode. They don't care for Chris. And watch the series, pick 5 episodes. How many of those episodes do they treat Chris with any modicum of respect? There almost isn't any. But in this episode, they actually do want to go to bat for him and win, even if it is cheating. And there is an argument to be had that they are probably getting back at Angus just for his attitude and less so for Chris's honor, because that's kind of what the two have done, proven time and again to have done. But still, as is though, they still go to bat for Rigby's, and they even tell him that at the end of the episode. So that's a nice little deviation from their usual treatment for the character of Chris.
Yeah, I like how he's treated more as an equal and less as like a punching bag or someone to kick around. So good on that.
But for Tainting of the Screw and its staying power, we still have people who are doing this. We still have people who are trying to sue somebody else for the quick get rich quick scheme. This was in the 90s, and all these little tropes that we've all just mentioned just minutes ago, all those are still very much in the 90s, but there's still so much of it going around with people who are doing this. There are competitions that are constantly, I mean, I don't think there's donut eating competitions, but you definitely have like hot dog eating competitions and pie eating competitions. So there's still some of that, but I see far less bagging competitions. But you definitely, it sounds like something you'd see on Wild and Crazy Kids.
Oh, guys, grocery games. He would have it, or supermarket sweep.
Yeah.
I can imagine it being there.
Yeah.
But for this though, this episode is, I don't remember Baggin Saggin Kel until we get to this episode. There are a handful of episodes that I remember very well, especially within the first season and probably the first half of season 2. But this episode, it was the episode that I remembered the most, simply because of that reveal at the end that I put the screw in the tuna. And that's not trying to swing things my way. That is the one quote that I remembered that more than the orange soda thing, which I thought was fun. And then I got back into the 90s Nick circuit over on Facebook, and every month somebody shares that, or a meme of Kel doing the I dropped the screw in the tuna. And at one point, they even had an interview with Kel talking about some of the highlights that he has had in his career. And they always bring that up and even ask him they will either ask him to do the Good Burger line or the put the screw in the tuna line. Everyone remembers those two things the most. That's become a staple for Kenan and Kel and for Nickelodeon history. And for good reason, because it is a twist that no one saw coming, because the entire episode, it just seems like Kel was dim-witted, because he is, the character is, not the actor, but then right at the end, and he has that manic, emphatic apology and just comes clean with all of this, and it just goes on forever. And like Mike had said, it's funny at first, and then it's not funny, and then it goes back to being funny again. It is one massive punch for a punchline that I don't think any other episode from that point on was ever able to match. There's a lot of jokes, and a lot of them are funny, but none of them have mastered what that had been able to come close to what this premiere episode essentially had done. And really got the audience hooked in to come in to want to watch more.
I got a question. Did the orange soda fascination, did that start with all that, or was that specific to Kenan and Kel?
I think that was specific.
Kenan and Kel.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned maybe one more time in season 1, but this is the one I remember the most that kind of started the trend, and it continued into later episodes. So I would say, in my defense, even though it's not like a knockout punch, you still get a lot of good jabs in there with the frequency of the joke that keeps coming up throughout the series of the orange soda.
I don't think your episode is the one where it originated, because I remember once where he walks into Rigby's and sees the stand of all the different sodas, and then does that whole line right there to that one, and then picks up the soda and then kisses it.
I remember an earlier one,
and I think that was earlier, and then they just recycled it and chopped it up using the same line, but now having Kenan and Chris say it to Kel to get his mind going on the wheel of wanting to get the orange soda. So
exposing him to kryptonite.
Yes, it definitely his kryptonite. So I don't think it originated on your episode, but it was definitely one that was carried out.
At least my episode is the first one where orange soda talks.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we're done with our episode battle. So before we ramp up for our final verdict with Mike, we're going to eat some of these delicious groceries and hopefully get rid of some nasty old expired tuna, just so that we can get ready for the final leg of this episode. So don't go anywhere, Gackoids. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Don't rush off. Nickelodeon will be right back.
Ever wonder what it's like to be wienerized? Join Mark, Max, Manny, and many, many more guests from the Wienerville Show as we come together to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Wienerville. You can catch all this fantastic retro-rific action only here exclusively on Patreon. And if you enjoy our bonus content, let a friend or know too so that they can join in on the fun with you fellow Gackoids.
Now back to Nickelodeon.
Alrighty, and we're back. We had some delicious meals that we concocted from our groceries, and we got rid of all that nasty tuna that piled up on stage next to Kel. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. We're going to do our final verdict thanks to Mike. So take it away, Mike. Give us a rundown of the categories and who gets what points to win this episode battle.
I got to tell you guys, this is tough. I enjoyed both of these episodes immensely. So I've just been making notes like throughout, just trying to figure out, all right, well, which one deserves each of these? So for each of these categories, we have story, quotes, supporting characters, food theme, and lasting appeal. For the story, they're both great for different reasons. I love the Baggin Saggin episode for different reasons. I love I love that little bodega. I think it's great. I mean, it looks very cheap. I really enjoy seeing things in the background, like the turkey is $3 a pound. If we could go back, you know what I mean? Seeing prices on things is just so depressing. The issue that I have with that one, and it's purely a personal reason, is it brings me back to my grocery bagging days as a teenager that were incredibly difficult. The people that you had to deal with on a constant basis. Everything needs to be perfect and all of that. But there's that one particular scene where Kel can't bag anymore. Kenan can't bag anymore. And Kel takes over and does it like super quick. And the lady's like, "You didn't ring me up." And you know, they see, wow, he did a really good job at this. And they're like, "No, it's fine. Go ahead. Like, just take it." And that triggered in me. Like, I remember doing that, like at the grocery store. You know, if there was a cool customer and I can't get something to ring up, I don't care. This is a corporation. Like, they have so much money set aside for this type of stuff. It's fine. And they would be like, "Really?" Or like, I wouldn't even notice. Like, just ring it up or not ring it up and just put it in their bag. You know, I worked at this place called Publix down south. I love Publix for their subs, but their groceries are a little expensive and they don't need to be. So, you know, I had a lot of like cool flashbacks with that episode. Again, yeah, you're right. I've never heard of a bagging competition. When I worked at a grocery store, we did talk about things like we should do a thing. I used to work at Whole Foods at one point too, and we would get our stores together for holidays and this and that. And I was like, we should do like some sort of like Olympic thing, you know, like who can, you know, stock eggs, you know, the fastest and bagging and things like that. But it's never been done. Also, there's only 2 stores doing this at one of the stores.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the other store, is that a grocery store or is it also a bodega? Yeah.
Oh, it's Angus's Food Barn. That's what it said on the apron.
Barn. That's awesome.
It's kind of like Al's Toy Barn versus, I don't know, the Andy's Toy Room, I guess, in Toy Story. That's the connection I made in my head.
I did love, and I didn't catch it until you were going through the episode, that his star bagger was from Baghdad.
Yeah, that was a great
I didn't even
joke.
catch that, and like going back and like, oh, that's funny. With the Tainting of the Screw episode, there again, it goes back, like I said in the beginning, the comedic timing between Kenan and Kel for their second episode is just incredible. The one thing I didn't like about that episode was that it just ends. Like it ends right after the courtroom scene, and not getting any input from the parents seemed a little odd. I get it. It's a 23-minute long show. There's only so much you can do. The name's it's the Kenan and Kel show. It's not, you know, the Kenan and family. You know, it's not that. So, you know, I can't dock it too many points for that. So for story, I got to give it to Tainting of the Screw. I think that it's a very interesting, very topical, like you said, in 1994 with McDonald's and the hot coffee. Like, they managed to take something that was believable and turn it into comedy, but they didn't get to how that screw got in there or why. Mm-hmm. But I give it a little bit of edge for that reason. So for quotes, I mean, there's some great quotes in both episodes. Obviously, you know, I put the screw in the tuna is I have never seen this episode and I died. I thought that was like just very comedic, it encapsulates their style of humor and kind of just that 90s style of humor as well, where it is a little over the top and a little bit strange. I thought that the Saggin Baggins was great too. Just again goes back to the interaction with the customer. Like, no, it's free. It's free. Like it's little small things like that make me laugh based on personal experiences. Also help me to kind of. That's a quote that I'm gonna remember just because like I've been there. You know, like it does have some comedic value in the actual quote and interaction between the two, but it has a like personal thing to me. Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle. Like I love that type of humor. So with that said, it's a draw. It's a draw on both of them. I mean, you do come out swinging with obviously the very end of Tainting of the Screw with I put the screw in the tuna. Like, it's great. But then you do have like orange soda, like, and the fact that the orange soda is talking, like it's weird. It's weird, and the 90s was weird, and I appreciate that they've taken both of these and just kind of, it has staying power, both of these episodes. And with the quotes, I got to give it a draw. Sure. Supporting characters, that's a tough one. This is probably the harder of all of the categories, because it's the Kenan and Kel show, and the supporting characters do help push along the plot or allow them to act out and ad-lib a little bit more and be able to feed off of each other and their energy. I do like the family. I think that the family is funny. That it does have like a small sitcom feel to it. Like it's not like the Roseanne's family. It's not like Full House. They're just like, we've got a teenage son who works at this bodega, and they're always getting into something, but they're just so oblivious. I like the family. I would love to see more of them. I do like Chris. Is it Chris, the shop owner? I do like his character. You hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that he is a little bit more self-deprecating, and it's interesting to see that in a show like this, like a character that's like, it's a little bit outside of sort of kids' humor and kids' understanding of that self-deprecation can be funny. And don't take it too seriously.
I do it all the time for our endings of all of our episodes, so I'm no stranger to that, and I can relate to Chris in a weird way. Yeah, I mean, we all know somebody like that, and we all have been that at some point in our lives. And he's a relatable character. Like, God, I got this worker, and his friends always coming around. They're messing with the arcade machine. One of the episodes, it was called like Phlegm Fighter 2 or something like that, which I thought was hilarious. Like, so, but on the opposite side of that, for the other episode, for the Baggin episode, if I remove what I know about Dan Schneider, he's a totally unlikable character, and he's meant to be, and that's fine. When you're judging something like this in a very official forum, such as the Splat Attack podcast, you got to separate the art from the artist, from the person. Agree. And I do find him to be the longer supporting cast member, supporting cast member. He has the most lines, he has the most interaction, and he has the most to do in an episode outside of Chris, which is always pretty minimal for the most part. So I got to give it to Baggin. Alrighty. Baggin Saggin Kel. There we go. I got 2-2 right now. So, all right, food theme. This is a tough one too, because I love food, and one of my favorite things is when I'm watching TV is like, I love to see how the actors and actresses interact with food that is there. Like it's real food. They're obviously doing multiple takes, and they're obviously having to interact with it one way or another. I felt that the Tainting of the Screw episode had more comedic value for the food theme. Like, you had the muffin, you had the tomato or whatever that got splatted on Dad's shirt, you had obviously the tuna sandwich, and then that became the focus after. It was just tuna, and I've already given my thoughts on that nasty pile of tuna at the very end. And it can be kind of one-dimensional, but also at the same time, like that's
that's this episode. That's what this episode is about.
Let's get out one thing.
Yeah, the Saggin Baggin episode. God, I'm gonna mess this up.
Baggin Saggin.
The Baggin Saggin episode had so much food in it, but you can say that about the other episode. Anytime they go to the bodega there's always going to be food there because that's where he just happens to work. Although, as seen in your little background there, I loved that they put him in this grocery bag. I thought it was super cool. Like, I still don't know if it doesn't look like they green screened him into a real bag. It looks like they built that. And that's pretty cool. And it does make sense for that episode. Like, it kind of brings it into focus and it kind of brings it in from this sort of abstract idea. Especially because at the very end, they're just shoving things into a bag. And that's like, with this, you're seeing what's in the bag. And that is, there's tuna making its appearance again. Ointment, pet chunks. I think that's dog food, and orange. Like, so, it had quite a bit of different food there. It's tough. This is a really tough one too.
What's your gut reaction?
my gut reaction, honestly, is that it's a draw for the food thing, unfortunately. So, I like to be diplomatic,
That's okay.
But I think honestly, like with the food theme, I mean, it's you have a plethora of food items in one episode. You have a lot of food items in the other episode, but then it focuses on one. And I don't know. There's not really a quote or anything that really sticks it to the Baggin episode that like kind of ties, that would put it over the edge to be the winner of this. You ended it on the tuna several times, like so. But again, it's a draw there.
Sure.
And finally, for lasting appeal, this one was also a little bit difficult, and I had to kind of take a little bit more of an objective look at it, simply for a few reasons. And I'll start with the Saggin Baggin. Baggin Saggin.
You messed that up. I messed up your name. We're even. Bruce.
This is Mick O'Connor. I'm signing off. So, the thing that makes this difficult with this episode in particular, Baggin Saggin episode, is that, you can't find it. Y'all invited me on and I was like super stoked, and I was like, me and my girlfriend, we're gonna watch Kenan and Kel tonight. Finally, I know she's watching this. Finally, we agreed on something to watch. She was like, can we watch that tonight? I'm like, yeah. Like, how many episodes do you want to watch? So I was like, okay, I see the name of the episode. And I'm like scrolling through, I'm like, I don't see it. And I'm like looking on Google. And then I went back and looked through the notes a little bit more. And I was like, oh, okay, this episode is removed. I was like, I bet I can find a copy of it somewhere. Somebody's got to have it. And that makes it very difficult to kind of give that an edge over the other. However, it is a fantastic episode. I think that, like I said, with supporting characters, this is the best of the two episodes because it has a villain in it. It has somebody that you hate, that you want to see them get their comeuppance, and you want to see him put on a wedding dress, and it does everything so well. And it's not the fault of the show. It's not the fault of of Nickelodeon or whoever that decided this episode is not going to air, because they've done it with several. It is one person's fault for taking that off of the internet. unfortunately. However, you can still find it. I was able to watch it legally.
Yes.
I'm winking. The Tainting of the Screw is fantastic. It does have lasting appeal. I think, I will never forget that quote now. I literally will never forget that. I think it is so funny, and nobody I know is going to understand what I'm saying when I quote that, which is unfortunate, except for my girlfriend. She'll laugh, and that'll be one of our inside jokes for many years, and I love that. I think, I think it does leave it a little bit open-ended, though, where it's like, yeah, what happened? Like, why did he put it in there? And the fact that the episode just ends. But I gotta give it to the Tainting of the Screw. I think lasting appeal. It's an episode I absolutely will watch again. But the negative part of that is, just like you said, Alex, is that there is no way you can watch that episode again and have the same reaction. It's like watching Memento for the third time. You're like, I already know.
Yes.
Watching The Usual Suspect. I already know. But like, you appreciate the art, the value, and what it brings to Nickelodeon shows for us 90s kids.
Yep, most definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess Tainting of the Screw wins this battle. Shield again. Man, you've been killing it, Alex. I need to stop giving you popular episodes, because I'm having flashbacks from last year around this time when Joey judged Splashdown versus What We Did on Our Summer Vacation, and I debated the hell out of Splashdown as being one of the greatest season 3 P&P episodes. But the problem is, Paramount did not release the season 3 DVD set, so they screwed the pooch for me.
How, dude? You gotta, yeah. I don't know how you would pick like the episodes, but
I think it's just like a personal instinctive feeling. I tend to go for the more niche stuff and give Alex the more popular stuff, unintentionally.
One of the episodes that I watched last night that we were cracking up, it was the episode that they it's the boss. The boss of the dad, like they all went to like the opera or whatever.
Oh, the pilot?
No. It was they basically like leave. They somehow leave an accidental. This is a very 90s sentence to say. They leave an accidental message on the answering machine. They didn't hang up the phone all the way, so they're like talking about, my dad hates his boss, like, his boss is such a jerk, and like all this, and then they have to go over to the house to try to switch out the little tape that you used to have for an answering machine, and they end up like putting it's so funny, like it just progressively gets more.
I remember.
I just wanted to talk about that episode too because I thought it was great.
Well, we can do an episode review of that one down the road.
And I will also say, if anybody doesn't know this, I think they still have this. If you ask Alexa, who likes orange soda? Alexa will say, Kel likes orange soda. He do.
That is amazing.
You tested it?
Yeah, I've done it before.
Wow.
Fun stuff.
Oh, man.
Good battle, Alex.
Good battle, good sir.
Good game.
It was tough, guys. I ain't gonna lie. Like this was a tough one.
I know. I try to match them best I can. But yeah. So that was a very exciting episode battle of Kenan and Kel. We all had some good laughs and some fierce fights together. But now we're going to move on to our episode ratings, because that's what we do for episode battles at the end before our segments. So we're each going to give our patented Splat Tech rating to each of these episodes. Starting off, Alex, what do you want to give the Tainting of the Screw?
So I'm gonna breeze through this because I don't have much else to talk about. But both episodes and both episodes have the same rating for me. I remembered this one. I remember Tainting of the Screw. It is one of the handful that has stuck with me since I was a child. I completely forgot about Saggin Baggin. See,
Baggin Saggin Kel.
I intentionally said it that way, but I intentionally I do not remember Baggin Saggin Kel at all, and I can't say it's because I watched it as a kid and then forgot it. I may have not watched it because that was at a time when I was starting to get out of it, and I may have gotten to watch something else. So I can't say that I didn't forget it or that I forgot it. I just don't remember if I had or not. But going back and watching this episode, I really dug this episode, and I have the ability to separate art from artist, which is something that I've been able to do very well, especially with like the likes of Ren and Stimpy. But I thought the chemistry between the characters was really strong. I did really like the fact that they worked together as a team, even if it was cheating. It's Nickelodeon, and these are all not characters that you really want to aspire to be anyway. It's just it's juvenile humor at its peak, and both episodes really personify them, and they take a fairly mundane script and elevate it with performances far better than what I even remembered them being. So this is into the S tier for me, and I am giving this both episodes a single S.
Mike, what would you like to rate the Tainting of the Screw and Baggin Saggin Kel?
I think for my first time like watching, I don't really remember these episodes, like if I've seen them, like I said in the beginning. So they're both really funny. They're both like fantastic, and I don't mean to copy you, Alex, but I think that they're both S tier. As far as just seeing the talent that's involved and seeing how well these guys did, as kids on a show that kind of let them just do what they wanted to do, and they have such great chemistry. But I don't think I can go any higher than that, because I think that maybe if I see some future seasons, I think they're still trying to find their footing in this, and you get that very early sort of feeling of, okay, there's humor there. They're starting to get into their characters a little bit more by the time you get to the Baggin Saggin episode, but I think they're both just fantastic. So S tier for sure.
Single S?
Yeah, single S. Yeah.
Well, for me, most of my rating comes down to like childhood memories and connecting it to rewatchability today. Tainting of the Screw. I love Kel's performance at the end, even if the ending is kind of happens. The buildup is great. Choking on a screw in tuna is potentially terrifying, considering I used to eat a lot of tuna sandwiches for lunch. Very relatable.
Not breakfast?
No, not breakfast. Sorry. Not brunch either, but lunch. But the problem is, it's just that one moment for me. The rest of the episode is a blur, even when I do rewatch it. So I can't, in good faith, rate it as high as Baggin Saggin Kel for me, just because Baggin Saggin Kel is like the earliest Kenan and Kel episode I remember from childhood. And even though I saw Tainting Screw later on, this one always stuck out to me. The bagging competition, how intense it was, how I wanted to bag like them, how I wanted to pack my lunch like that, and bags for customers when I worked at Target. It's just that deeper cut nostalgia that transcends Nickelodeon for me, that makes me appreciate it more. Plus the character dynamics too, of Dan or Chris and Angus, as we know their characters, just playing off each other, because we don't see that too often, where we have like Chris's rival showing up to challenge him to a contest. And I like the unique premise of that story a lot, and how Kenan and Kel both get involved with it, and even Kel switches to the dark side, but it's okay because he's not really on the dark side. That was a fun twist for me at the end. So with all that being said, and some of the gross out humor of Tainting the Screw with that blob of tuna at the end, I'm going to give Baggin Saggin Kel a double S, and I'm going to give Tainting of the Screw an A, which is actually the same ratings I gave Michael and Pinsky Come to Camp for an episode battle that we did yesterday when we recorded it. Funny how that works. All righty, let's get rid of these groceries and head over to Think Fast to Make the Grade, shall we? Time to think fast to make the grade. Okay, so for Think Fast to Make the Grade, let's test your Kenan and Kel knowledge with these questions. The points are going to get more progressively increased with the difficulty of these questions. So starting off, it's going to be 1 point and then ending with a unique question. So starting off, for question 1, hands on your buzzers, I will be keeping track of points. According to this episode, what was Kel's first obsession?
Ding.
Mike?
Did I?
Yeah, that's fine.
Ham.
That is correct.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yes, he enjoys ham. 1 point for Mike.
Ham. That was an awesome scene, though, with all the ham hanging up and everything. The boxes that say ham.
Question 2. For 1 point, the title of this episode is a play on What All That sketch. Alex.
Well, obviously, Tainting of the Screw is not it because that's Taming of the Shrew. But Baggin Saggin Kel, that was a skit on All That called Baggin Saggin Barry, where Kenan played Barry and he had giant pants and he would pull all these props out of the pants.
Surprisingly, not groceries. It's all in the pants. 1 point for Alex. Question 3. Get a little harder now. The mask worn by Kel that scares Kenan is the same mask used on what other Nickelodeon show?
Mike?
The only mask I remember is the Jason mask.
Nope, but that is a mask. I'll give you a 0.5 because that is a reference.
What other mask did he wear?
It was.
It's not in my episode. It's in Alex's, I think.
Yeah, it was the one where Kenan starts typing at the computer to get the press, and he looks back at Kel, and he now has a mask on, and it startles him, and it was the Grandpa Munster mask.
I see. I think during that time, my mind kind of wandered where I was like, is he writing an email? Is this like, are we doing that now? You know, in the 90s? Or is he just writing a letter, typing it out, and then printing it and then sending it? So I missed the mask because I got distracted.
Well, that to answer the question, bro, which I had put it out earlier, that was from my brother and me.
That is correct. 2 points for Alex. Although I'm pretty sure it's the Frankenstein mask and not the Grandpa Munster one because it looks more like Frankenstein than Dracula.
Okay.
But same difference. You got the answer right.
Yeah, it was still Munster.
Yeah. Moving on to question 4 for 2 points. What does Kenan and Kel play hockey with in the Baggin Saggin Kel episode?
Oh, I know there's one. Dingalings.
Yes. Dingalings. That is correct.
Was that
Chris's dingaling
answer or a buzz?
That was the buzz sound.
I'll accept it as both.
No, it's good.
Ding dongs are like the little Debbie. They're the best.
Mm-hmm. I was a really big fan of yodels and coffee cakes growing up then.
Ooh, coffee cake.
Especially when you freeze the yodels and they get this nice ice cream consistency. Good stuff, man. Oh man. Before we get thrown into some more nostalgia, here's question 5. For 3 points, the writer Neil Brennan wrote this episode, being Baggin Saggin Kel, along with several more for All That. What non-Nickelodeon show did he move on to write for? That is Chappelle's Show, and Chappelle's partner/writer for a long time. He even wrote the cult hit Half Baked with him, which was a film in the late 90s, I believe.
It was late 90s.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. That should have been the final question. My apologies. Manny helped me write the
That's
questions.
the daily double right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. No one got it. We'll move on. Current score, Alex 3, Mike 3.5. So you're edging out by a little bit so far. Question 6 for 3 points. What song plays while Kel makes his entrance into the bagging competition? Alex.
Mama Said Knock You Out.
Oh, yes.
That is correct, by LL Cool J. 3 points.
That's a good song.
It is. Okay, question 7. The actor who played the bailiff also starred in movies such as The Pirates of the Caribbean and Anger Management. What is his name? For 4 points.
I know the dude. I don't know his name. Straight up told Barbosa, everything you have done has come from bad to worse. I know the guy.
That guy, yeah.
I don't know
that's
his name.
him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. No name.
Oh, no one got it. Neither did I, honestly. It's Isaac C. Singleton Jr.
Oh, I was thinking senior.
Sorry, not giving you half point for that. Okay, question 8 for 4 points. When Kenan makes a sandwich, he gives Kel a snack too. What is that snack?
Bing.
Mike.
That is a sausage with mustard.
That is correct. Half a sausage with mustard. 4 points. All right. Oh, this is a very close one. So for the final question, I'm going to give this X points, meaning you're going to get a point for 2 points for every correct item you list. Name all the things Kenan wishes he has in his $10 million daydream. You get 2 points for every correct item. And both of you can participate. Alex.
Well, he had the arcade.
Yep.
He had that basketball shooting game.
Mm-hmm.
He had the sports car.
Mm-hmm.
His mom and dad had the motorcycle that they were sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
And he had that stereo that made it rain.
That stereo was also the most expensive item. It was a $4 million stereo. He specifically said that, which I was like, what?
So Alex named all the big ticket items. Can you name the little ticket item that was there in the daydream?
No.
It's a lot more obvious than you think.
Chris. He bought Chris. No.
Close.
It was his butler. Man, what was it? I don't.
The drink Chris gave Kenan.
Well, I was close.
Yes.
No.
Because he gave him a drink and then he gave him $1 in return.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It was like a yellow drink.
They never said.
Yeah, it was like a tropical drink.
Oh.
I would have laughed if it was orange soda.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or he gave it to Kel instead. But yeah. So who got that one?
I got.
You got all of them, literally.
All right, you got it.
I just knew the cost of the stereo.
Sorry, no bonus point there. But it was close until the last question. But yes, congratulations, Alex. Steamroll the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Quick
I
thing.
gave you this episode.
Go on, just take it. Yeah.
Don't open any tuna cans anytime soon.
Oh no. I think I'll pass on the tuna.
Speaking of tuna cans, how did Kel exactly drop that screw in the tuna? Because it didn't seem obvious when Kenan was making a sandwich.
No, and there wasn't even anything prop-wise around the table whenever they were that even led itself to using a screw. So
yeah, it's bizarre. I love the quote. I love the acting in the moment, but it leaves a lot of unanswered questions that throws it into unsolved mysteries territory.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's for our Gackoids to figure out. Here's our closing question for the day. Which Kel-centric episode do you prefer and why? Are there any other Kenan Kel episodes you'd like to see go head-to-head on this podcast? Write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at splatattackpodcast. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at splatattackpodcast as we're continuing our growth to the journey of 1,000 subscribers, which will definitely help us get more tools to slimify our show. You can also interact with us wherever you find us on social media, be it Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon here, of course, Reddit, anywhere else you can think of that you find our content. Also, be sure to check out our Bonfire store and get some sweet Splat shirt merch because we got a ton of new designs that dropped this week, and you definitely should check them out. We've got a Double Dare one, Clarissa Explains It All, Some Are You Afraid of the Dark, Roundhouse, of course. Yep, Big Orange Couch.
A ton.
There's going to be more down the pipeline too once we have more time to make designs. So if you want to support this podcast, that's one of the easiest ways to do so is grab a shirt or a mug and head on over to Bonfire today. Thank you again, Mike, for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure to get to know you through this episode and also through our 1,000 follower giveaway, which we mentioned a few episodes back on B18. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we go?
I've got a YouTube channel all about the 90s. It's called I Miss the 90s. I cover pop and not so pop culture from the 90s and revisit it and also learn a lot of new things that I didn't know back then. Also, I'm on Instagram as well. I Miss the 90s YT, stands for YouTube. And there's just fun stuff on there. That's
awesome.
You know, that's probably a little bit more digestible for people's short attention spans.
Yeah. That's one thing that I struggle with myself because I like to take my time and absorb content, and I just can't constantly flip through stuff like it's Tinder on crack. It doesn't interest me, but for other people out there, it's great. So if you love mixed content, definitely support him.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Geckoids, tune in next time when we take a road trip to Wienerville to celebrate the 30th anniversary. Go figure, it's another anniversary episode, something we're good at. There's going to be a slew of colorful characters waiting to greet us and show us around town. What kind of hijinks will we endure while exploring the different regions of Mark Wiener's world? Find out next time, only here on Splat. Until then, Alex, will you drain the slime tank for us, please? I'm going to make a tuna fish sandwich to celebrate my victory against Angus's competitor in the grocery games.
Aye, Co-Captain. Just make sure there are no screws in that tuna while you assemble your sandwich.
Whew. Luckily, there's only a quarter in here. Hey, I can use this to buy a can of orange soda to go with the sandwich.
I knew you'd like it better than a screw.
I do?
Yes, you do. Ooh.
Aw, here it goes. I'm out here, Gackoids. Time to get me some orange soda. Splat you later. Bye.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits. I reckon it's time for me to go.
I'm glad that's over. Now for a peaceful night's sleep.
Well, that does it for now.
Yeah, we gotta catch a train.
Since I'm going home, you can't my arts and crafts project. It's a tweezer holder.
Alright, guys. Let's go fun.
How long have we been away?
See you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Like the red? Nah, I like the white. Here, take $100,000 and get both, huh?
Oh, thank you, son.
You will. Yes. Girl, love so much soda. Here's $1 for you, huh?
Thank you, sir, boss. Bless you.
Thank you. Here's your pretty dress, Fungus. Put on the dress. Drop the screw in the tuna. See you at the bagging contest. Yeah, I'll see you lose, tacky boy.